What I'd like to do now is introduce Ira Rubinstein. He's the founding chairman of the Czech Green Building Council, and also will be presenting tomorrow on aspects of green finance in a workshop, which, as we've heard today, is an incredibly important component of unlocking a lot of the potential in promoting green buildings. So with that, Ira, I'd like to ask you to please give us your comments on the Czech Green Building Council.
Good afternoon. Aaron and I were speaking. I think you're going to find that we both have brief presentations and really want questions and dialogue. I am very privileged to be the founding chairman of the Czech Green Building Council, and I say that because the work that we're involved in really builds on a lot of predecessor work around the area of sustainable buildings, sustainable homes, on the part of a small core group which had done a lot of very diligent volunteer work over the 2 years leading up to last March of 2009. And I got involved with them because I have, over the last 20 years, in a career which primarily has been involved in the financing of green and clean technologies and energy projects, and I did say 20 years. The first 3/4 of that, which was in the US, and because of that, was involved in the founding of several organizations, both predecessor to the US Green Building Council, and then helped several of the state and regional chapters of the USGBC get up and operating. So I have a lot of background in the space, and my colleagues in Prague who knew this and who were interested in this chatted with me, and I weekly volunteered to do some things. So as a result, what we did was last summer, we ran a series of 2 facilitated meetings with about 40 companies and chatted about what we thought the opportunity was to build on this kind of work. I would say that we were helped by very good examples, including the example in Romania and the fact that Steve was kind enough to come in and address an interested group of people and thereby give people a sense of what really could be done. A, that it could be done, and B, that they could actually do it. And that really resonated. It was very, very helpful. And I think that goes to echo the message you've heard during the day about the not only the need, but the real benefit for councils working together to achieve activities and achieve goals collectively. The council, some of whose members you see here, came out of that process, and as a very cohesive group, and those of you who have worked with businesses know that businesses can be very leery about collaboration. I personally find the interesting thing about working in this environment, both from the council point of view and business point of view, is that most of the businesses in this sector understand that they benefit from change, and they're more willing than most businesses to be exploratory about it. This certainly was the case in the Czech Republic, and we began the council with a formal meeting on September 15 of last year. So we're about 7 months in. In 7 months in, we have a legal structure. We have, at the time, this I think illustrates about 40 founding members and founding partners. That's now up, if I remember correctly, just over 50. We have a target of around 100 by the time of our first anniversary in September. And we may not quite get there, but I think we're going to get pretty close. But people were extremely collaborative about this, and so we were able to make progress very, very quickly, and that allowed us to sort of get through the sometimes tedious founding activity, which really wasn't very tedious here, and get really right to work. This is the mission statement of the council. It doesn't look a whole lot different than some others, and that's good. In the sense that there's a real cohesiveness of what councils are about. We are no different than that in the Czech Republic. The council is a nonprofit association, which we were very careful to work within Czech law and with a good lawyer to set up. And actually chatting with colleagues at dinner last night about how hard that is to do in certain countries and certain legal systems in Central and Eastern Europe. And our focus is encouraging the market through educational and legislative activities and conditions to promote high-performance construction that's both sustainable and profitable. Clear message to businesses is this is a way to make money, make more money than if you were doing something another way, and at the same time to contribute societally, and I'll come back to that. So the objective at the end of the day is that sustainable building becomes the standard in the Czech Republic, and I think that's philosophically important. This is a business organization, even though it's a nonprofit, and I think it's fair to say that all of us, my colleagues and myself included, would like to be in a situation where this becomes so normative that the council works itself out of a job. And I think that's important to remember. All of us probably know the Red Cross story of nonprofits that sort of have extensibility. My own view is if we are in a situation a decade from now where councils are still needed, we will not have fully done our job. This needs to become normative in regulation, in planning, in basic activity, so that this becomes incorporated. It is the norm, and anybody that would build differently is kind of looked at oddly. And I really do think that we're going to get there. The economics, I think, dictate that. So our job is really to educate the market and create the demand and the knowledge necessary to move that, that activity along the line to success. We focus on green buildings, of course, because they're economical. They reduce energy and material use. They're environmentally friendly and friendly to occupants. So real focus immediately on energy savings, because that's what people many times can understand. It resonates very well. You've heard prior comments from speakers here with regard to energy security, cost issues. These are no different in the Czech Republic, and people pay a great deal of attention to these issues. They're real selling points, and they are frequently almost like the prow of the icebreaker. They break the ice on the whole subject because people understand these issues very intrinsically. You see here a picture of our founding meeting, where we were fortunate enough to have this in the Czech Technical Library, which is the National Technical Library at Czech Technical University, on the second day of the building's opening, which is very fortunate because it's one of the greener buildings in the Czech Republic. It's a library which houses, I think a couple million volumes, and also I think probably 200 computer desk workstations, and is designed to be passive to the extent that there's no air conditioning in the building. Really nice piece of design, and we were fortunate to be the first large meeting in the building on the second day of its opening. Nice piece of timing. Couldn't plan that. Nice coincidence, but it really worked well. Helped us get a lot of attention, a lot of press. And as an interesting story, Czechs are rather well renowned for being somewhat skeptical, and sometimes for being passive. And about 2 weeks ago, the council sponsored a meeting on passive homes. We did this on the first Saturday of spring, when the temperature, I think, hit 18°C, on a weekend when Czechs are notorious for leaving on midday Friday for the country. This room was packed for an entire day by people, primarily consumers, homeowners, prospective homeowners, who really wanted to understand this. And it says a lot about the power of these ideas in the market and what the council has been able to do to sort of contribute to creating an educated demand for this. I think we picked up 3 or 4 members as a result of that, just because companies saw what the demand looked like. It's very, very interesting to do. So the goals are cooperation, communication and education, the conduct of seminars and workshops that help to increase the knowledge and the demand, online information access, and if any of you have looked at our website, and for those of you who haven't, I suggest you do, the website is very, very good. It's also very good, notably, because all the effort is volunteer, and it is just an amazing site. You look at it and you think we must have spent a lot of money on it. It is all volunteer, and it is just really, really, really something to be very happy about. We've got green building tours in planning and in process, both for buildings that are completed and also, importantly, for buildings in construction, so that people can learn something and see something in progress. Both in country and out of country, by the way. We want to take people to see things in other places, and that may be something we can collaborate with some of you on. I've already had a conversation with my colleague in France about this. And we want to highlight best practices and new technologies through case studies and research, which is a lot of the way in which we collaborate with several of the universities in the Czech Republic. We clearly see ourselves as part of the network, and it's worth noting that in, I think, every presentation anybody gives from the council, this slide or a version of this slide shows up. We want people to know the council doesn't sit alone, that there are partner organizations globally, and that this is part of something much larger. We see that's an important part of ongoing education. The goal is to steward market transformation, to create happenings and popular events to support public interest for green construction. This doesn't have to be laborious, it can be fun. It's about engaging people at all levels of life and all ages and all backgrounds and interests. We work on legislation carefully. We have an interesting situation in the Czech Republic. We have parliamentary elections at the end of May, which follow a year and a half of an interim technocratic, non-political government. It's given us an opportunity in the midst of that to do some education, but also to proceed slowly. But we do believe that we will see a clear majority in the parliament coming out of the elections in May, and that will probably create a climate of opportunity to move forward. We are taking advantage of the fact that some targeted programs that predated the council have attracted particular interest. Notably in the Czech Republic, the government has aggregated and sold carbon credits now 2 years running to the Japanese government and Japanese companies. And the money, about $300 million US a year, has been put directly into energy efficiency programs for residential buildings. This started out being frankly thought of as a kind of give me program to the Greens, which are in the extreme minority in the government, but it has become extremely popular. It's hard to find a political personage or party that doesn't claim some beneficial sponsorship of this program now. And we've shamelessly used that as an example of why things related to this can be very effective, and it is very good for us to sort of point to that, and we garner attention about other potentially politically valuable ideas around the whole subject space. And we're very involved in looking at certification. Certification is an interesting subject. I know no one in the room has any opinions on certification. Our view right now as a council is that we think that any building well-built and certified by an independent quality system is a win for the Czech Republic and for the environment. We are going through a formal process of understanding and evaluating the certification systems that are commonly in the marketplace, because we want to understand them, and we view this as an opportunity to educate our members and other companies about what the marketplace currently offers, and to think about how that might play out as a market offering. But that's a process that's going to take a little while. Finally, what we've done, remembering that we're only 7 months old, when we put the council together, we had certain objectives. We've met one of them, which is to have a core staff. We, 4 weeks ago, hired a full-time professional executive director. We now have 3.5 full-time staff. This is in large part due to the fact that our founding partners made sufficient commitments so that we had the capital to invest in these people. They are responsible for, given the preferences of the founding partners and the members, focusing on the various subjects that you see here, all of which have identified task groups of members with member and other non-member participation, which is a way that we get non-members familiar with the activities of the council and bring them forward as possible members. But the point is that these are all subjects that the council has identified as additive, where we can do work on our own, partner with related organizations, create policy mechanisms and areas of education and knowledge that bring the objectives of the council closer from a legislative or regulatory perspective. And some of them clearly involve legislators at senior levels, some of them involve students, some of them involve activities that are clearly business-based, some of them involve education. But these were all built as part of a surveying of the membership and the building of a roadmap and work plan for the council that the council's board has been very assiduously busy in building. I think it is worth noting that when we built the council, we had a very frank conversation in the formative meetings during the summer about what kind of organization people really wanted. And as a result, what we've built is a nonprofit business trade organization where transparency is a goal, which I would say in the main we have done a very good job of realizing, where no partner exercises more influence than another partner over agenda, which for those of you who deal in these organizations know how hard that is to create that kind of balance. I think we've been, very successful by dint of both hard work and good luck at actually seeing that happen. So that the broad view of the council is that it is a very fair place in which to function, get a hearing, see some business opportunity. Very, very important. I wanted to also talk a minute about a couple of other things that relate to this, and we were asked to sort of focus on several subjects. One of the subjects that isn't here, and it's worth an anecdotal story, is the impact of these kind of approaches and principles on single-family housing. In the Czech Republic, like anywhere else in the region, we've seen an impact from the fiscal crisis. New starts for housing, have ground almost to a halt, where they've moved with difficulty because banking institutions have been extremely reticent to put additional money into real estate. Typical problems, I don't have to enumerate them. In the middle of that, we happen to have two council members who build residential housing at A-level energy ratings and fairly green. I wouldn't say they meet a particular standard, but they are very green in their construction. And they are designed to focus on middle to, at the maximum, upper middle income Czechs, and to provide a clear value for average homeowners at a pricing level that's essentially equivalent to what one would generally pay for conventional housing. One of them builds single family, one of them builds multifamily, 6 to 12 flats. Most developers that I see, and I'm going to speak as a banker now, are looking at refinancing the way in which their existing housing stock is sitting there because it's not moving. These companies have a problem because they've sold everything. And their biggest problem is they can't find land to build new stuff on now. They have an exactly opposite position in the market because people understand the value of building in this way. They clearly understand it from the point of view of energy cost and related subjects, but they also understand quality. And we have builders who understand that they can go to the market, offer this kind of quality, still make a good margin, and not have to really look at incremental cost increases, but be almost dead even in terms of pricing. It's a very powerful story, and obviously it's the kind of story that I like to tell everywhere that we go and chat about this. I'm very appreciative of the opportunity to be here today to present this story, which is really presented on behalf of my colleagues and all of our members, some of whom are in the audience today, and I appreciate them being here as well, and I'm sure they're getting a lot of interesting information out of today. And I look forward to the comments and questions. Thank you.